A book talk book everyone loved but you didn't. Hi guys, I missed you so much. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to be feeding you with book recommendations because today we're doing a book tag. I got this idea when I was deep diving Rachel Catherine's YouTube and I came across the Steph book recommendation tag. I think it was like really popular back in 2023 and I was like, wait, that was actually a really fun time and a fun era, and I thought that we would bring it back. So I'm going to be giving you guys 20 book recommendations off of her prompts. I did switch them up a little bit and show some of my own, but they're mostly the same. We're going to go through and I'm going to recommend you 20 books, or about 20 because I did add a couple extra for each prompt. Just give you a book for every different situation, and hopefully you can get some book recommendation from this, some 5-star reads that you want to read, some romances, some fantasies, anything that you're really looking for. So let's get started. Okay, the first prompt is a book you tell everyone is your favorite. For this, I kind of focused on the part where it was like you tell everyone, because my favorite book is not this, but I usually don't tell people what my actual favorite book is, but I do tell people that my favorite book is Magnolia Parks. This is my second favorite book series ever, because this book is honestly a book I would really recommend to people, and I would not mind if this is the book someone holds as the highest when they think of me. This book is a book about I'm sure you heard of. This book I'm sure words. Where are my words? This book I'm sure you heard of. This book follows Magnolia and BJ. They are high society London celebrities, famous. It's kind of childhood friends to lovers, I guess, their story, and it's honestly just a beautiful story. And it's honestly, you can't even like, I can't even tell you what goes on because it's like you're following the days of their life. Everything happens. It is so much drama. I've heard that this is described as like British Gossip Girl. I don't know if that's true. I've never seen Gossip Girl, but I really love this book. My second prompt was a book talk book everyone loved but you didn't. Now, no one sue me for this, okay? No one sue me for this. I remember when I had just gotten into reading, I was watching a lot of Sarah Crowley and a lot of different booktubers and book talkers, and I was like, this book is so loved. I'm gonna love it. It's gonna be 5-star. Unfortunately, this was the day I realized that I don't like childhood friends to lovers in a small town, and that book I chose was Love in Other Words by Christina Lauren. This is also a really old book. These books are really like peak book talk. This book is a childhood friends to lovers. So it's a childhood friends to lovers second chance romance. They grew up together, they were best friends, something happened, and then they drifted apart and they're rekindling, I guess, or they reunite years later. This book follows Macy and Elliot. I remember everyone was so in love, and I read it and I just did not enjoy it. It wasn't that I didn't care for it, it just kind of was like, oh. I would recommend it though. I think everyone should try it out because it can be a really good book for some people, and some people really love it. Next, we have a book that makes you think of God. I don't think anyone's gonna expect this, but I chose Kingdom of Ash by Sarah J. Maas. This is the last book in the Throne of Glass series, and Throne of Glass, single-handedly best fantasy I've ever read, hands down. It is a book about trials and like burdens, and one of the quotes that they repeat throughout the series is, "I will not yield." It reminded me of God and how I will not give up, and I will not yield, and I will have faith, and I will keep going and keep fighting through everything. And when you read this series, this book is 1,000 pages long, by the way. When you read the series, they go through everything. Aileen is one of the best female characters I've ever read about, and all throughout it's just, I will not yield, I will not yield, I will not yield. And the fact that we cannot yield, and we will not yield, and he did not yield, and we will not yield, and she did not yield. The next prompt we have is a book you read the fastest. I pulled The Wall of Winnipeg and Me by Marion Zapata. This was my first ever Marion Zapata book, and if you know, Marion Zapata books are really long. I devoured this entire book in a day. I loved it. It follows Aiden and Vanessa. She is basically his assistant, and he's a famous football player. He kind of disregards her. She ends up quitting, and he runs back and asks her to marry him for a reason that's kind of a spoiler. But it's a marriage of convenience trope. It's the first one I ever read. It's the reason I fell in love with that trope, and they are just my favorite in the world. Like, it is the slowest of burns, and I loved it. I loved reading and just being like, are they gonna hold hands? Like, oh my god, he brushed his hand against her shoulder, oh my god. And they don't kiss until like, I think it's like the last few chapters, but I think that's the best way to go about it. A book that deserves more hype. For this prompt, I chose another Mara Zapata book, and I chose Luna and the Lie. It's about Rip and Luna, and they share a secret, and Rip kind of feels like he owes Luna. We pick up in the story kind of just on a regular day. It's not like events are happening, but we kind of just enter her life in the middle of it, and it's kind of like watching a show, but over time they fall in love, and I love them. It's mechanic romance, and she's like a girl mechanic and he's like her boss, and little events and little problems arise and they have to spend so much time together. And I reread this recently and I can affirm that that was 5 stars. I have not been saying the readings, but that book was 5 stars. I love that book. The next prompt we have a book that's becoming a movie or TV show. For this prompt, I pulled Firefly Lane by Kristen Hanna. This book follows Tully and Kate, and they're best friends, and we just watch them become best friends in 8th grade, and throughout their lives until they're 50 and 40 and until death, I guess, we just watch their lives together. Like, when I tell you, this book is such an important story, and I really want to watch the show. Like, I usually kind of skip shows, but this recently, Kristen Hanna has really been gaining some popularity as an author, and I kind of wanted to see if the hype was real, but like, the annotations of this book, everything that she talked about their friendship, I could relate to so much, and I really related to Kate, and I just really enjoyed this book. I rated it 4.25 stars, so I would definitely read it. Like, it is like womanhood in a book, and it is so many different challenges and so many different things that they face, and you just get to watch them grow. And you just get to watch them live, and you get to relate, and you get to cry, and it can be really, really, really sad. It has the saddest ending, but the perfect ending, and it was just amazing. I loved this book, and I cannot wait to watch the show. Our next prompt is a book with the best annotations. I think we all know what's coming next. For this prompt, I pulled Magnolia Park's Into the Dark. This is the last Magnolia book in the Magnolia Parks series and universe, and I am so incredibly sad about it, but when I tell you I picked up this book, I picked up my pen and I ran it dry. I don't even know if you can see this. Every single page, and when I say every single page, I mean every single page was annotated. I used every single color of the rainbow. I had so many different annotations in this book. I actually cried so much reading this. I do not cry really reading books, but this book hit me at the end of Long Way Home. Something happened and it kind of just left us all a wreck, and we waited months for this book to come out, and actually like almost a year ago, because it's March 5th right now, and this came out like March 28th of 2024. I'm actually gonna read you one because you guys are here and you have to read this. I think you're really quite a terrible father. And that comment sucks the air out of the room. Everything goes quiet and heavy because everyone there knows that I've been lugging that thought around in my back pocket for years and years. Never brave enough to say it, but never loved enough to let it go. An entry-level bleakness to the whole world, I think, because it's anti-Darwinian. People are programmed to love their young. It's ensured the continuity of our species. And if the people who are hardwired to love you can't or don't or refuse to, what does that say about me? The best quotes, I think, are all spoilers. The annotations of this book has like my entire heart. Like, when I tell you, like, these pages just put my face on the cover, and this is everything I am. I love Magnolia. Oh, that was 5 stars, by the way, if you couldn't tell. For prompt number 8, we have a book with your favorite book boyfriend. This is another book in the Magnolia Park series, but we have Daisy Hates the Great Undoing. This book follows Christian, Daisy, and Julian, and Julian is my husband. I actually married him when I first read this book, so he's taken, guys. Julian is like the best thing in the entire world, and I don't think anybody can convince me otherwise. And I say this dead seriously. I remember the first book I read his name, and they said Julian Hates, and I went, like, my heart just went, like, I swear I just knew. He's the love of my life. Julian is an art thief and a gang lord. He is like the sweetest, and I love him in Daisy. He's his sister, by the way. I just love Julian. I don't care. Julian is the best character. He can do no wrong. I support Julian Hates rights and wrongs. A book that deserves all the hype it gets. I have 3 books for this prompt. These are all popular book talk books that I feel like deserve everything. They deserve all the hype that they get. For the 3 I pulled were The Cruel Prince. It's a fantasy book following Jude, and she's an orphan. Her parents were murdered, and her sister get taken to this land of Fae, where she kind of adjusts to this new life. She wants nothing more, I guess, I get to fit in to this Fae world, even though she's a human, and then she finds a rival, happens to be the king's son, and it goes off from there. It is not a romance. This series completely lived up to the hype. It was such a good book, and it was such a good fantasy, I think, and it was my first fantasy I've ever read, and I loved it. Another book I have that I think lives up to the hype is Better Than the Movies. It's a rom-com. Like, every page starts with a rom-com quote. For chapter 3, we have You're Late, You're Stunning, You're Forgiven. Pretty Woman. It's like the perfect rom-com is what it's advertised as, and it is. She gets a crush on this guy. She has her childhood best friend, and they've always fought over, I guess, this parking spot, and she offers to let him have the spot for eternity if he helps her get her crush. So they kind of set off on this fake dating thing, and everything just picks up from there, and it is perfect. I love this book. 5 stars. I love it. I love it. I love it. Now, this is a book talk book that I read very recently. I read it in December. Actually, I think I read it in August. But this is the Addicted series. I have the first book here, The Found Family, in this book. When you read the first book, and then I think it was like the 7th book, because there's 10 books in the series, I was like, they are so different. Everything is different now. It all changes and they grow so much. And when I tell you, I've never been prouder of characters. I have never been prouder of characters. The entire series is Addicted Calloway Sisters series, which is the Addicted books, which is Lily and Lo, and then the Calloway Sisters, which is Lily's sister, Rose, and Daisy. This book follows Lily and Lo. They're both addicts. I won't say what they're addicted to, but they're both addicts and they're best friends and they're childhood friends, and they have my heart. This book is also kind of like Magnolia Parks, where it's like you kind of just watch the days of their lives. So there's not much of a plot other than their addictions, and they're fighting to overcome them. See if they can love each other more than they love their vices. And I love the Addicted books. A book you usually recommend when asked to give a recommendation. For this book, I kind of pulled from experience. I have a couple of friends that I feel like they match perfectly to this series. And it is such an easy, fast-paced book and series overall that I feel like they should definitely read it. So I've recommended this a lot of times. But we have the Natural series by Jennifer Lynn Barnes. This is like criminal minds, detective kids who are kind of trying to solve murders. This book follows Cassie, who is a 17-year-old natural. And a natural is basically someone with a supernatural ability. Not like superheroes, but like one person is like really, really good at reading people. And one person's like photogenic memory and stuff like that. All these kids get like collected and they get set on FBI cases that are unfinished. We follow Cassie as she discovers the naturals and she gets recruited. Each book is kind of a different mystery that they solve, but it is a lot of fun. I love Jennifer Lynn Barnes' books. She's also the author of the Inheritance Games. I love her books. They're super fast paced, they're super interesting, and they are super, like, they just will hook you. This entire series, I binged it. It is so fun. It's like a TV show, and I love books that are like TV shows. A book that has your favorite characters. These are all my favorite books, but I kind of avoided the one book that would probably apply to every single one of these because I don't want to bring it up yet. So for one of my runner-ups, I have Some Kind of Perfect by Krista and Becca Ritchie. This is also a part of this Addicted Calloway Sisters series. This is the last book, the epilogue novel, so it's basically just what happens after the book ends. And it is a long book, I will say. It is 800 pages. And you have to love characters to read an 800-page book of them just living life. I actually could not get enough of them. This book was 5 stars. This book was infinity stars. Like, I didn't rate any of the books in the series a 5-star, but this is perfect. A book you wish you could live in. I think for this prompt, people usually pick fantasy books because it's kind of like they have different worlds and it's not like they just live in a different city. But I kind of just picked a cast of characters that I wish I could live in, and I'm kind of cheating, but this is like a book character cast that I wish I could live with and I could be with and I think I would get along with. So for this book, for this prompt, I chose Caught Up by Liz Tomford. This is a part of the Windy City series. I kind of just picked one of the books. This is my favorite book, I think. One of my favorite books of the series. They're just a series of romances all set in Chicago. Guys, read this entire series. This book is a single parent nanny trope. These books are a definite must. I would definitely read them. They're very fast. I like binge them on my Kindle, and they're all on Kindle Unlimited. I binge them on my Kindle. They're super fast. They're sports romances, but they're written so well. There are 5 books, and the 5th book is coming out very soon. I think it's coming out in May, in like 2 months. But there's 5 books. We're on the 4th book right now, and at this point we have so much fun family, and they have just built a family of friends, and I just wish I could live with them. I wish I could go to family dinners on Sundays. I wish I could go to the games. I wish I could meet them and meet the kids and just see what happens with them after this entire series ends. But I'm in denial, so we're not even going to talk about it because that series is not ending and it never will. Guys, I'm gonna turn the lights on because I feel like it's getting dark. A book you thought you would hate but ended up loving. For this, I chose a Kindle book. This book I kind of didn't think I would hate, but it was one of those like random romances that I just clicked on and I didn't really expect to remember, but I actually loved this series. I read it around Christmas. I kind of read it at the perfect time. It's Protecting You, which is the Bailey Brothers series. This book is like, I don't even explain it. It's like 8 or 7 brothers, and they're all from this small town, and Protecting You is the first book. I read that book. I don't recommend that book too much, but the first 2 books are following the same couple, and then the next books, it just gets better and better, and you just follow this town, and over time, like the quirky small town things that happen, you kind of just get used to them, and you see the like town squirrel and the town crazy man, and all these different love stories of different characters, and I really enjoyed this book series. I would definitely recommend these books. The next one we have is a book that made you cry. I do not cry at books. I don't. And this is a kind of the series I've been avoiding mentioning. It takes a lot to make me cry, and this was a lot. This was bad. When I say like this book threw me for a loop. I was like sobbing, like I couldn't breathe, hiccuping. It's the 4th book in the Boys of Tommen series, so you kind of have to read the entire series to get to it, but this is Joey and Aoife's book, and this is sob worthy. I would also search up trigger warnings because there are a lot of trigger warnings that are partly the reason I was sobbing so hard, but I would definitely search it up. It's a very heavy book, and you cannot read it unless you are really in a good space, because it will bring you kind of down, and it'll kind of put you in the headspace of a person that's really struggling, and I think you need to be prepared for that. Okay, a book that could cure a reading slump. I have a couple of recommendations for this. So I have, for one, I have a romance and a fantasy, The Bodyguard by Catherine Center. This is a quick sunshine book. Like, this book is quick, it's sunshine, it's easy, it's really funny. Like, laugh out loud, like I actually laughed funny, and it's 300 pages, so it's very quick, it's really easy, it's really funny, it's really enjoyable, and you will laugh and you will like it from the very first page. But if you kind of think a fantasy would be more of a route to escape a reading slump, I would read The Serpents and the Wings of Night by Carissa Broadbent. This is a part of the Nightborn duet. It basically is about, it's about vampires, like a vampire king's daughter. She enters like this world tournament, and I think she meets she forms an alliance with one of the rivals of this competition, and they go through the trials together. Very fast paced, very just good tension. I liked the characters, it was really enjoyable, and it was quick. It was 500 pages, but it felt quick. The next prompt we have is a book you think everyone needs to read. I picked a series for this. This is a series that I read when I was first starting out reading, so this is really directed to new readers and people who are just getting into reading and kind of just need something to, I don't know, I think this was kind of the reason I fell in love with reading, but I would definitely recommend reading the ACOTAR series. Now, there are mixed thoughts about this book. There are people who say it's too smutty, people who say it has no plot, people who say it's not a good book. I am not one of those people. This book, and I know this is like the corniest thing I'm ever gonna say, but I remember reading this book, and at some point it felt like the sun was higher in the sky. To this day, when I smell these pages, I just get the memories of reading it for the first time. It was like a twinkle in your eye kind of moment reading these books. This book is about Feyre. Honestly, the best way I can describe it is that she is poor, she provides for her family, and she's like a hunter. She hunts this wolf, or I guess what she thought was a wolf, and she ends up killing him. Back at her cottage, the wolf comes banging into her door. He's like, you are under arrest for committing this treason because you killed this blah blah blah. I don't really even remember what the wolf was, but she gets taken to the ring court, I think. So she gets taken to this court, and she meets Tamlin. It kind of goes on from there. Make sure you get to A Court of Mist and Fury, because A Court of Mist and Fury was one of the best books I ever read. If I could just meet Reese one more time, I would actually geek out so bad. A book you think would make an amazing movie. Ooh. For this book, I chose a book that I'm obsessed with, and I love Kaz. He's like my husband. Like, that's the best way I can describe it. But I chose 6 of Crows by Leigh Bardugo. This is like, okay, this is a heist. A team of 6 characters all come together for this one heist. And Kaz is like, I guess, the man in the middle. It's a convict with a thirst for revenge, a sharpshooter who can't walk away from a wager, a runaway with a privileged past, a spy known as the Wraith, a heartrender using her magic to survive the slums, and a thief with a gift for unlikely escapes. Oh my gosh, 6 of Crows was amazing. But I picked this for the prompt simply because I think that the production of it is already a show. It's like the Shadow of Bone. I actually don't think 6 of Crows. I think Shadow of Bone, which is also set in this world, is a show. But I think this would be an amazing movie. It's a duology, so it'd be perfect for a movie. The setting and the Grishaverse is just, I don't know how to explain it. It's like the slums and the setting and the dark tones and the costumes and layout of everything, it would be so cool. It would be literally epic. I think the premise is perfect for something like this. This was the second fantasy I ever read. I remember it because I was like, should I read Six of Crows or Cruel Prince first? And I chose the Cruel Prince, but I read this directly after and I am obsessed. I wouldn't recommend it for your first one only because it was kind of hard to understand. Like, I was like studying it, but the magic system is so cool and I think the production would be so good. All the characters would be really, really good to play on screen. A book you wish everyone would give a shot, even if it's out of their comfort zone. For this book, I honestly just wanted to say Amari's Bottle book. I think that they're very slow burn and they are romances and they're kind of different from the fast-paced romances that are really popular today, but I think they're really amazing books. And it's like a worth the wait, and I feel like so many people don't have a good attention span anymore. I picked the first one I ever read, which was All Roads Lead Here. This book is following Aurora and Rhodes, which is the male main character, and it's like a single parent trope. Maria's Zapata books are also a lot of like, we follow the female main character and we kind of just follow whatever she's on, like whatever story she's going through, and then romance is like a plot of it as well. Part of the plot is really her self journey. But you will love every single female main character. At least I did. Every single one she writes is perfect. I'm obsessed with them. I would 100% recommend reading Maria's Zapata book. I think everyone should, even if it's out of their comfort zone, just to see if they like it, because nothing is better than a slow burn. Oh my gosh, guys. Okay, for the last two prompts, we have a book you wish you could read for the first time and a book you'll never forget. These, I chose two books out of the same series because these books I will never forget in my entire life. I remember the day I read these so vividly because I had opened my Kindle. I was like, okay, like, I'm gonna read these books. I was reading The Cruel Prince or something. And I was like, I'm gonna read these books while I wait for the next book in that series to come. So I started reading them. I was like, I don't even care. It's gonna be like 3 stars. Oh my gosh, if I could just read it again. If I could just feel it again for the first time, I would relive 8th grade just to get to reread these books for the first time. That is Bunny and Kiwi 13 by Chloe Walsh. This is the first 2 books in the Boys of Tommen series. These books follow Johnny and Shannon. Guys, I don't think you understand that these are my lifeline. I love these books. I would give so much to read these books for the first time again, and I will never forget them. And it is, honestly, this entire series is just a big trigger warning. But I think it lines up to my life so perfectly, and it makes me feel so seen. And I love Johnny, and I love Shannon, and I am so grateful that I ever saw these books, and it helped me through a lot of really, really, really bad times to feel seen in the way that I did from these books. Johnny is a rugby player. Shannon is kind of like the shy new girl in school. She's walking across like the field, or I guess like they say the pitch because it is an Irish book, but she's walking around across the pitch and he's playing a game and accidentally kicks a ball. It hits her head and she gets knocked down to the floor. He picks her up, brings her to the nurse, and the minute he looks into her eyes, he's obsessed, and it just goes on from there. The story is so much bigger than just that, and it is so much bigger than just like 3 tropes that I could give you, and I think we all should read it, and I will never forget them. And I am so grateful that Chloe Walsh even had the idea to make these books. That being said, we are done. That is the last recommendation prompt we have. I love these tags. I really enjoyed it when it was 2023, and I love it even more now. Thank you, Steph, because thank you for making this. It was so great. And thank you guys so much for sticking with me through this entire video. These book recommendations, I hope you found some that you would like. I hope you found some that you'll love, and you'll get some 5 stars from this video. So thank you guys so much for watching, and I love you guys so much, and I'll see you guys in the next one. And I also did do some reading vlogs for these books, so go check that out. But I thank you guys, and I love you guys so much. Bye.